We all have struggles. Lately, I've an area that I've probably been struggling with for, I don't know, I want to say really intensely for about the last 6 months is just, I guess, feeling ill-equipped, not just for ministry, but, I mean, life in general. I think the reality of life and its difficulties and ministry and relationships and everything, all of what we talk about in here, I mean, has been, it's been weighing on me, I think, in a way that's, ended with bringing a lot of my own sin to the surface, and allowing me to see where I base a lot of my hope and a lot of my joy and a lot of my comfort and even a lot of my rest. So I was talking to Jeff about this last night and I've been sharing with Mikkel, but I'm glad I get to share this morning. I'm not glad Don has a puffed up face, but I'm glad I get to share this morning because I've been dying to kind of flesh this out with you guys and talk to you about it and hoping that it encourages you as well. So I want to dive into the subject of strength versus weakness, or strength and weakness. I want to look at kind of how we define those typically as humans, and then how that plays out in our lives and how that affects even how we relate to God. So if you guys could, maybe just we can spitfire some definition or some defining here. How would we as humans, just humanly speaking, what do we define as weak? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. What is that? How do I sum that up in something smaller? Hinders. Okay, limitations. Limits, there we go. So obstacles. Some kind of obstacle. I'm a worse speller than Don, so I'm glad Sydney's not here. All right. So yeah, some kind of obstacle. What else is weak? Everyone except ourselves. That is so true. Yeah. But really, what else? Define something weak. What is that? Inability. Yeah. Okay, so not aggressive. So would that be like passive then? Passivity or passiveness? What's the right one, Jeff? Passiveness? Passivity. Yeah? Like that, maybe? All right. So passivity, needy. There you go. Anything else? Dependent. Okay. Yep. Dependent. Submissive. Okay, so probably on and on we could go with that. Yeah, so those are the things we look at and we're like, man, that's weak. Do we view those typically as good things? No. We don't like those, right? That side's not our favorite side. What about on the strength side? Start defining that for me. What is strength? Courage is strength, okay.
Power.
There you go. Power. Able. What else? Confident. Yeah, think of the workplace. I mean, all these things are things that would get you far in a job, right? If you're confident, you're assertive, you are a good communicator maybe. That one, you can communicate well. So good communicator. Communicator. Persuasive. That's not an A. See, Don, I told you it was worse. Persuasive. That's a U. Spell persuasive, Kel. There we go. Competence. That's a big one for me right now. Is it C-O-M-P-I or E? E. So spell check on Google has ruined me for life. I no longer know how to spell. Lost that skill. Yeah, a lot of people have. So yeah, these are all good things, right? And if you were looking at these objectively, you'd say, yeah, that's good. That's what I want, right? Anybody want to be this? We all want this, right? Yeah, that's what we idolize. We idealize this. We idolize it. We crave it. You know, we all, especially if you look at the workforce, whether that's out at work, at home, you know, whether you're a guy comparing yourself to every other guy and calculating how much, you know, maybe I'm better than him at this, but he's better than me at that, and you're just constantly trying to quantify that. Or you're you know, a woman and you're trying to quantify, well, she's better looking, I don't know, she's skinnier, she's whatever, okay? We do that all the time. We're constantly calculating strength and weakness. Constantly. Always assessing that, always saying, oh, I don't know, I'm not this, or maybe I am this. But this is what we value, and by and large, this is what we don't value. True? Yeah. So God has a different definition of things than we do, yeah? Yeah, so let's turn to Exodus. Go ahead and jump back to, actually turn to chapter 4, and then we'll just kind of talk through what has happened up to this point. Okay, so chapter 4, and then go ahead and turn to verse 10. Verse 10, and then let's talk through this point. So we're talking about Moses a little bit. So let's kind of, we can just sort of recount this story. Moses goes into the wilderness because he's fleeing from, so when he's initially fleeing, because he just killed a guy, who's he running from? Yeah, the Pharaoh and the Egyptians, because he's afraid they're going to do what? That they're going to kill him. Okay. So he runs into the wilderness, and he becomes a shepherd. And one day, while he's out in the field, he sees something crazy. What does he see? Burning bush. Yeah, so the bush is burning, but it's not burnt up. So there's a fun, I don't know, I always laugh when I read what it says there, because it says, Moses says, you know, I will turn aside and see what this amazing sight is, you know. And I'm always like, did Moses really stop and say, I will turn aside and go see what this amazing thing is, how the bush is not consumed, but it's burning, you know. So, but yeah, so the bush is burning. He goes and he seeks it out. He finds the bush, sees what's going on, and what happens then? He encounters God. So he starts this conversation with God. This conversation begins with him taking his sandals off his feet, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it begins with that, and then God wants Moses to do what? Yeah, go back to Egypt. For what reason? Let my people go. Yeah. Yeah, he wants him to go back to Egypt, tell Pharaoh to let his people go. And Moses says, yes, I will go. Right? No. What does he do? What does he say? I'm not eloquent? Yeah, he says that later in verse 10, yeah. But ultimately, he starts to try to wiggle his way out from underneath this, right? Like, no. They won't listen to me. There's got to be somebody better. But he offers up excuse after excuse after excuse until he finally gets to, I'm not eloquent. I'm slow of speech. I'm not good with words. And by this point, what happens with him and God? We can just read it. Verse 10. So then Moses said to the Lord, please, Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither recently nor in times past, nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. The Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now then go, and even I will be your mouth, and teach you what you are to say. But he said, please, Lord, now send the message by whomever you will. So is Moses super excited about going back to Egypt? No. So let's humanize this a little bit. Let's get in, because I think sometimes you can look at Old Testament Bible characters and be like, oh, it's a cool story. But let's humanize this a little bit. What would you be doing? What would you be thinking? Yeah. Look at the scope of the Egyptian army. You can't. That's impossible, right?
Now running.
Right, so he's already, I'm sure, going. What
I
you're,
did this.
yeah. And what you're asking me to do is impossible. Yeah?
Well, and I don't want to try it again because I look like a fool. I look
Yeah.
like now a murderer. I did something wrong.
Yeah, so all of this stuff here, all this stuff right here is coming out of Moses. And Moses is seeing a lot of it, yeah? What is Moses thinking that he needs in order to do what God wants him to do, though? Maybe. Or what does he want?
He needs something he doesn't think he has.
Yeah. He needs something he doesn't think he has.
And that he thinks is needed.
That he thinks is needed to do the job. Exactly. So Moses is stuck here. I love the Israelites, the example later on when the Egyptian army is chasing them and they have a wall of rock on their right, a wall of rock on their left, an Egyptian army behind them, and an impassable sea in front of them. Because what are they faced with? Where do they look for help now? They can only look to God for help. There's no other direction they can go. He hems them in to the point where they can't do anything to help themselves. It absolutely led to the point of weakness, to the point of inability, to the point of failure, to the point where they're like, I got nothing. What you're asking me to do is impossible. Where you want me to go, they're going to kill me. They'll never. The Israelites, not just the Egyptians, but the Israelites won't listen to me anyways. So then God gives them a sign, and God has them turn the staff to what? A snake, right? And then he also has them do another sign. He puts his hand in his jacket, and he pulls it out, and it's leprous. Okay, he puts it back in, pulls it out again, it's not. So God's demonstrating his miraculous power, and still Moses is saying, no, I can't do it. So Moses is relying on internally, and he's wrestling with this, right? He's wrestling with this. He wants to be strong. If you want me to do this task, you've got to make me strong. Because I'm right here, I got nothing. This isn't going to happen. I think that we can all probably relate to that, yeah? Anybody ever felt that way at work? Anything in your home life make you feel that way? How about ministry, Jeff and Don? Anything in ministry make you feel that way? It's a piece of cake, nice and easy. Easy to do, easy to accomplish. Exactly. See, I think this made me think of just humanly speaking, especially in the strength realm. I was thinking about the Seahawks, and I love sports, I love Seahawks. But I was thinking about the Seahawks, I was thinking about good athletes. These athletes are the best of the best of the best of the best, right? And they get drafted, they get on these teams, they get paid millions of dollars. So it's a huge thing, it's a huge accomplishment, it's a huge achievement. Usually if you're a professional athlete, I think KJ Wright is shadowing somebody at Microsoft, like job shadowing somebody at Microsoft. Probably not because, and maybe KJ Wright's qualified to do that, but probably it's just because he's KJ Wright. And he accomplished a lot, and the dude's stacked, and he sacks people like crazy. Okay, but yeah, Olympics, I was thinking of the Olympics, I was thinking of bodybuilding, sports, business, everything. We value this. We detest this. If an employer sees this in you, are they going to think well of you? No, they're not going to.
In our heads, we think they won't.
At least in our heads, we think they won't. Yeah.
You look at all the leadership stuff out there, it's all talking about
Mhm.
how do you identify, limits and inability and weakness. But it usually is with the standpoint of, okay, how do you correct those and fix those and
Yeah.
improve those?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's in an effort to really overcome this stuff. Yeah, Tracy.
And even in that, as Christians, we do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where is my sin or my weakness, and now I need to work on it.
Now I'm going to fix that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we don't typically value weakness as people. In fact, weakness in our minds hinders us, and is a hindrance to us really doing. I think especially in the ministry realm, it's a hindrance to me actually serving God to the capacity that I think I could if God took this away. If you just fix this right now, if you just made me different than I am, if you made me less angry, if you made me less irritable, if you made me less annoyed, if you made me more patient, if I had more of this or more of that, then I could serve you. Then I could do well. Then I could do this task that you've put before me to do. Is that a common thought maybe with us? Yeah. That's every day. That is my wrestling match every day. Is I want to go, no, I just want this gone. Yeah.
It's such a common thought, and I'm like, waiting for you to tell me why that's not true. It feels like there's more coming, and yet I'm thinking, how is that not true? How are those weaknesses not becoming?
And see, and that is the kicker. Turn over to 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. And we'll actually just read from 7 through to verse 10. Can somebody read 7 to 10?
Which chapter again?
Chapter 12, verse 7 to 10. So is that a little more, does this verse bring some clarity a little bit? Because this is how we'd prefer to operate, especially in the realm of ministry, even life, yeah? But is this true of us, really? Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going next with this, and this is what I wanted to get at, is that the way we define this, especially operationally, is in God's economy upside down. I mean, we see the world through darkened lenses. We see through a glass darkly. We define things with not a clear picture. We don't have a clear picture of reality as it exists. We think we do, or we'd like to believe we do, and we operate as if we do, but we don't. We don't see things as they truly are. Only God does, right? Yeah, done.
Just think about the story with Moses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't add anything. But we live in that deception that it will all the time, and we're constantly thinking, if I could just get this, if I could just have this one thing, if I could just resolve this, then.
Whereas the this is Christ.
Yeah.
It's not courage, it's not power.
That's right.
it's not confidence.
That's right.
The this is Christ.
Absolutely.
You just highlighted in Corinthians where he says, hey, his power is made evident in our weakness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Donald and Mikkel. That's right. Well, and he says in verse 11, and back to Exodus again, he says, and I don't know why this hit me, maybe it's just because I've been wrestling with this, but this hit me in a different way. Because the Lord said to him in verse 11 of chapter 4, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes him mute, or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? What's he saying? I know who you are. I know what you're capable of. Yeah, or we did it. Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly what Paul is saying. Saying, I prayed 3 times, right? That this thorn would be taken away. And every time the answer came back, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is perfected in your weakness. This is where God's power is most clearly displayed in us, not in what we perceive to be strength, okay? Not in human strength or human ability or human eloquency, or if that's even the right word. Okay, human intelligence. Go ahead, Trace.
Well, and I think
Yeah, because we'll so easily go, yeah, I did it. Woohoo! I accomplished that. Yay. Go me.
I think you can
Yeah. When he'd seen God deliver him from lions, and I think it said a bear at one point, but he'd seen God deliver him. So he'd seen God rescue him over and over again, and God had given David tremendous faith. And that's...
But he also, I'm sure, knew that in and of himself, he was
oh, yeah.
just helpless.
Yeah. And I think that's where you get the man after my own heart. I really think that's where that comes from, personally. That's my opinion. Okay, he knew where his strength was, But we'd take credit for it. I mean, that's just what we do. That's who we are. God knows who we are, and that's what he's saying to Moses. I know who you are. I know what you are. I know what you're capable of, and I know what you're not capable of. And go. You're going to go anyways, and I'm going to be with you, and you're going to see. You're going to see me do what I'm going to do. You're going to see me rescue. Yeah, it's like 4 hands went up. Everybody that was raising your hand, raise it again one more time. See, yeah, Laura, go ahead. Flip it all upside down in the end. And with God, all of these are what? Strength. Because who's manifested in them? Who's revealed in them? God. Don's been talking about Babel. We were talking about that. So the people came together and they united under one banner and under one mission. And they were strong, right? They were going to build this tower to show their strength because they were united. So God, and I for a long time I didn't understand this. I see it clearly now, but God confused the language so they couldn't communicate with each other anymore. And then they dispersed. And for a long time I never saw that as an act of mercy. But now I see it as an act of mercy. It's an act of saying, that will never be enough. God's saying, that's never going to be enough. It's only going to end in your destruction. So I'm going to help you out. I'm going to create some confusion, and I'm going to allow you to see your weakness. And that's an act of mercy. And this is where I've been encouraged lately, because it's like, there's a lot of times I'm seeing this over and over again, and I'm like, geez Louise. Like, there's no end to this. There's no end to how much weakness resides in me. There's no end. And the more I think I got it, the less I have it. And that's the key, and that was the key with Paul. And that's why he's saying this. That's why Paul said this whole thing. I mean, I imagine he was with this thorn that he got, and I'm not even going to, I don't think what it was is important. People said eyesight, it was a demon, it was this or that. It wasn't important what it was. Just the fact that it was there. And Paul is saying, take it away. Why does Paul want it gone? I mean, I'm speculating here, okay, and I'm reading into this a little bit, okay, so I'm just going to put this out there, but what if he's thinking in his head, maybe, if you just took this away, I could do more. I could be more. I could accomplish more for you. I could win more people for you. I could convince more people. I could go farther. If you just removed the hindrances, if you took this thorn out of my life, oh, how great a minister I could be for you, God. I mean, can anybody relate with that? Just even on a daily life, practical basis. If you just removed this obstacle right now, I could go anywhere you want me to go. I could be anything. I could be a better mom. I could be a better dad. I could be a better husband. I could be a better wife. I could be a better daughter, or son, or sister, or brother, or whatever. A better pastor, a better worker, better business owner. I could be more committed. I could be more diligent. I could do all these things. If you just remove this weakness from me, take it away. Yeah. Abba, yeah, or could if I just could if.
I can see this clearly, just like
Yeah.
Job.
Yeah. Jeez.
Obviously, God has it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. God has it wrong. It's an accusation, really, in the end, right? So Ellie is very different than Abba. Both of them are different, and they both do that thing in different ways. Where Ellie was the I can do it myself. Abba just sort of passive-aggressively growls. I don't know if that's the right word, but like we'll hear her at the other end of the house going, "Argh! Argh!" and going there, and I'm like just watching her for a minute. She's like, "Oh," like trying to get a shirt on or trying to get a shoe on with the laces tied so tight that there's no room for her foot to actually slide into the shoe. So she's like frustrated, just putting this thing on. Argh! Never once going, I need help. Can you help me? Right? That's just the way we are. Because if I admit I need help, then I admit that I'm weak. And I don't like that.
Really, the true word for weak is independent.
And that's right.
What John is saying, we utterly
That's exactly right. We wanted our independence. We wanted to be like God. We chose that. We thought a life of independence is better than a life of dependence on God. It's opposite. It's totally upside down.
It's interesting, because as soon as you said that, I thought it's our dependence that makes us strong. It's our dependence on God that
That's right.
strength, and I'm depending on that.
And that is absolutely consistent with how the guy that built his house on the sand versus the guy that built his house on the rock. On the rock, you're immovable. I love that song, "Immovable My Hope Remains." And Christ, our hope, is truly immovable. He is immovable. It's not just God gives us strength. God is strength, and he gives us him. You don't just get strength with God, you get God who is strong. It's like you're in a situation, and I remember one time I was swimming in a pool in California, and I was kind of bobbing along the edge, and Abba does this, but I was kind of bobbing along the edge, and then I remember I just went under. I lost my grip or something, and I went under. I didn't know how to swim yet, so I'm sitting there, and I'm underneath the water. And all of a sudden, I feel my dad pick me up, put me on the edge, and he saves me, right? So this is God. That is God, though. You have the strong right hand of the Lord. You have God. You have God who is true strength. So that we don't need to fight for these things. I mean, therein lies our liberty here. Therein lies how the gospel liberates us so that we can stop fighting for what will not satisfy and will not add 1 hour or minute to your life. It's not going to make you happier. It's not going to make you better. And it's not going to make you any more whole than you already are in Christ. Period. There's nothing more that you can add to that. Grace is it. You have grace. If you have God's grace, you have God's love, you have Christ, you have everything. Everything worthwhile. And you ultimately have stability upon stability. Immovable. So that whether weak, whether you feel good today or it's a bad day, maybe you're like me in the winter where you have like really intense arthritis pains or whatever, okay? Or I know others in here have knee problems too. But these weaknesses are good. They're good. They're not fun, but they're good. And they're good because they allow us to see where true strength resides. Isn't that true? And there's a beautiful picture of the gospel in that because they sew together these flimsy fig leaves. I mean, leaves tear. If you ever picked up a leaf, they tear like easier than paper. So, I just think, man, God looked at these flimsy, pitiful coverings that these people had made. They're hiding themselves, which is like, I know what you did. Like, he knew what they did. I know who you are. And you made this flimsy covering, and he doesn't wipe them out. Instead, he makes them real coverings. He makes them real clothes. Gives them real protection. And it's an amazing picture. Yeah, Spencer. Well, and I think that's true, and I can't judge an athlete's heart or anything like that, but I think that's a great example. Just in terms of, look, that's what we all want. We all want to get to that goal. We all want to get that goal so that we can be the ones celebrating. Don't we? Right? That's what we want. That's everything we want in life. So that we can get to that point where we're celebrating, we're the ones spiking the ball doing the Michael Bennett. And especially when you think you are, you're not. In fact, you've never been weaker. Yeah, I think we gotta wrap up. Go ahead. One more and that's it.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah. So Paul says, verse 10, and I'll close with this. Therefore, I am well content with weakness, with insults, with distress, with persecutions, with difficulties for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong.